In a world filled with information, where do you turn to get straight talk about retirement, investments, and your money? Lock it in to the longest running financial talk show in Arkansas and let us help you build the bridge between information and application. Real financial change begins right here, and it starts with you.
It's showtime! Woo!
You probably know your own personality, but do you know your financial personality? On today's show, we're talking the characteristics that drive how you relate to your money and how you use it.
This is the Get Ready for the Future show.
And thank you for joining us on the Get Ready for the Future show. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, and we are broadcasting across the, across the world.
Wherever you can get Wi-Fi, you can, here we are. Facebook. There you go.
And of course, we're broadcasting on terrestrial radio here in Central Arkansas. If you're listening to us on the weekend on our affiliate stations across the state, we thank you for joining us on the Get Ready for the Future show. John Shrewsbury in with Scott Inman out on some personal business today. Tim Key joining us from the West Little Rock office, and of course my business partner Janet Walker at the holding down the other end of the table.
Yes, yeah. The way I'm leaning on it, it does kind of look like I'm literally holding it down.
Yeah. So guys, we've kind of had an interesting couple of weeks in the market. We have seen the market just going crazy on the upside, coming off this pandemic. The downturn that we had, that sharp downturn we had back in March, has now turned around into almost a record-breaking bull market on the upside. But we're a little bit cautious about that. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But it is kind of an interesting time, and we're finding out lots of things about our personalities and how we relate to money.
Yeah, this was kind of fun to do, the whole personality thing. We've done this before. It's a fun little test to take. What's your financial personality? We're talking about Facebook. There's all kinds of things like this all over Facebook regularly. It's that type of fun thing, but really at its core, when you get past the, just the fun part, there's really some basis in it that can help you understand yourself a little bit more financially, Tim.
I think it's really good to know exactly what your personality is when it comes to money. I mean, we know what it is when it comes to other things in life. Sometimes we have a good idea what it might be for money. Actually, when I took this test in this past week, it kind of confirmed what I thought. But it didn't give me a big surprise, but it then also kind of gives you some tips on this is why you think the way you do on certain things.
Right. It is very insightful. It's good to have that information.
So for those who are just itching to take this test at the mere mention of it, let's go ahead and tell you a little bit about what we're doing with this. If you go to our website, getreadyforthefuture.com, and go /personality, you can take this personality quiz and find out in general about your personality when it comes to money and finances. I found that I was a Fitbit personality, but I don't know that that's totally accurate. So I'm going to take a little bit of issue as we develop that on the show a little bit later today.
Well, I think it's kind of like anything else, though. It's not that you're 100% anything. The test is set up so that it shows what your primary financial personality is. And no surprise, I was the financial Fitbit one, too.
You were too.
Yeah, so we're 100%. I mean, my goodness, we're financial advisors. Does this shock anybody that this is how we're wired? But here's the point, though. There's a fun aspect to it. But then, unlike most of the other fun things like this that you get through social media, at the end of it, there's a so what. Yeah. So if you want to follow up with, okay, now I have a label for my financial personality, now what do I need to understand about myself, then there's the ability for you to do that at the end of this quiz.
At the risk of full disclosure here, let's kind of reveal what we found out during this pandemic about our financial personalities. When things get crazy, sometimes people get crazy with their money, and I've found that I've observed that a little bit in some people, and there's always this, threat, if you will, of comfort buying and things of that
Right.
nature. Janet, did you buy anything during this pandemic?
I mean, I bought stuff, but I didn't do any comfort buying. That's not really how I'm wired. And if I were wired that way, here's what it would look like. Because once in a blue moon, I'll do something like this. My daughter and I will go like to TJ Maxx, and we'll get 2 or 3 things. Well, we couldn't go anywhere. And even when they opened back up, you couldn't try stuff on. And I'm like, honey, if I can't try it on, because, the 19 in COVID-19 stands for the number of pounds that we've all gained. And so I'm not going to buy clothes. It's true. Just don't even say anything. So I'm not going to buy anything if I can't try it on. So, the things that I might have done on a very small scale, we didn't do at all. So in our family, we've saved a lot of money. We didn't eat out. We've saved a lot more money than we would normally even save.
Now, Tim, you're between me and her, so I'm going to tell on her, but you have to keep her off of me when I throw this out. You know what she bought?
What'd she buy?
She bought a tractor.
It was not an emotional purchase. You asked me if I did any emotional buying. This was something that was already in the works.
Well, we're going to debate whether that's an emotional buy or not for the farm girl. Okay, it wasn't maybe in connection with the pandemic.
That's true.
But it was an emotional buy for the farm girl who has a plot of land behind her house and now is Farmer Jane out there. So
you have to have a tractor, right?
That's right. See, Tim understands me.
I completely understand Janet
I see.
here. So.
I see. Well, what about you, Tim? What did you buy?
Well, we ended up buying some things at Lowe's for the yard, and we were at home.
He is one of those millions of people that showed up at the home improvement store.
I mean, it was packed.
You couldn't go to church, but you could go to the home improvement store.
Well, but I have a friend, though, who did basically this little dissertation, if you will, on Facebook about why that's okay. And she made a very valid point. She said, when I'm at the home improvement store, I'm going there to buy the half a dozen things that I need, and I go and get what I need, and I leave. When I'm at church, if you're breathing, I'm going to hug you, and I'm sure going to hug you if I hadn't seen you in, a couple of months. And I'm also going to linger, and we're going to sit closer to each other because we're going to sit down and have some coffee and catch up on life. And, she said basically the point is I'm going to share a whole lot more germs with you if I'm at church than if I'm at the home improvement store.
A lot of truth in that. Yeah, so we did some of those types of things around the house, and then we actually had to go car shopping, and it wasn't anything that we had planned on doing.
Yeah. There was a car accident involved.
There was a car accident
they didn't have
involved
a choice.
in this one. So we actually had to replace a car. So we have gone car shopping through this process. But I think it kind of goes back to our personalities, too. And my wife living with me for the last 19 years, we had just paid this car off about 6 months ago that we had.
Right.
And she's like, I don't want another car payment. So we're going to take the check from the insurance company and add some money to that and actually be able to pay cash for this next car, too. So,
yep, good. That's the way to do
we're
it.
Going to do that.
And there's some good opportunities out there right now because there aren't a whole lot of people buying cars.
Well, and now that you bring up these four-wheel vehicle things, they almost got me. They almost got me with the 0% interest and my desire to have a Jeep.
Yeah,
it's enticing.
It was close.
I'm proud of you for not doing that.
But I did something that we're going to talk about a little bit later. Is I waited 24 hours and then I waited another 24 hours and I waited another 24 hours and it still didn't go away. And so I just turned the TV off and quit watching it.
And it ultimately went away.
Ultimately did. But I did have this. I bought these. These are AirPods.
This is not a commercial.
Yes, it is not a commercial, but I did buy some AirPods because I justified this expensive purchase. These things are pricey, but I justified them because they sound so good on
all
Zoom,
the Zoom calls you're doing now.
All the Zoom calls and everything. I can hear really well from them, and they make me sound like I'm not in a tunnel. So that's a good thing. So I survived with only a couple $100 of expenditure on what I would call a comfort purchase, but I dodged a big bullet on about a $35,000 or $40,000
deal.
I
mean, seriously, I think, in all seriousness, setting the tractor purchase aside because that was already planned for us, it was just a timing thing. But setting that aside, I really think most of the people I've been in touch with have saved more money than they've spent during this time.
I think that's probably true. We're just getting started on the Get Ready for the Future show. We're unveiling your financial personality. We'll go through those financial personality quizzes here in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us.
At GenWealth, one of our standards is that we value good communication. One of my favorite quotes about good communication is from George Bernard Shaw. He said, "The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. If you ever doubt that, come to my house, listen to my 16-year-old son and my 13-year-old daughter having a conversation and see what happens, because they will walk away with completely different understandings of the conversation that has occurred." It happens every time. It's okay, they're still learning communication. But here at GenWealth, we believe that that's something you need to experience every time you walk in our door, that you need to feel understood, that you need to feel listened to. So you'll see a change in how we're even communicating. If you're talking about something that's very serious, very personal, you'll even hear a change in our tone of voice, because that's just how good communication is supposed to be. But it also means that we can feed back to you what you've shared with us, just so you know that we're listening. We value good communication.
From the GenWealth Radio Network studios, we're back with more of the Get Ready for the Future show.
We are talking the 6 different personality types when it comes to money and your finances on the Get Ready for the Future show. We want to remind you, you can go take this quiz on our website at getreadyforthefuture.com/personality. It's absolutely free of charge, and at the end, you'll have a little form that you can print out that says, hey, I now know my personality. Here's the next step for me to kind of gain control of some of those things that you may be doing that might not necessarily be in your best interest. And before we get too far away from this, I thought I would at least lobby just a little bit for my AirPods. I have to call them the right thing, because I'll call them ear pods. but the AirPods, if Janet, if we could get a device that could help me get rid of these big, fat, ugly headphones and could use these on the air, and it probably wouldn't cost but a few $1,000s.
I think you're going to have to talk to the other Mr. Shrewsbury, who's the director of such. Okay, so yeah,
I'll set those aside and we'll just keep moving then, because I know what that answer will be. Okay, so let's talk about these 6 different personality types. Yeah. And this first one really kind of gives me the willies, because I guess I've watched too much satellite television, and that show that is on, I think it's on A&E, called The Hoarders.
That's the vision you get with this title.
So with this title, The Hoarder, I think about money stacked up all over your house, and that kind of bugs me a little bit, because I always wonder, what happens if there's a fire? What happens if there's a break-in?
You lose it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit, Janet, about the hoarder.
Tim, I think this is something that we've seen. I feel like, to a certain extent, generationally, and not like a generation has a personality as a whole, but I do feel like it seems to be more common. Those who were, for example, greatly influenced by people who grew up during the Great Depression. So like my dad would strongly fall into this category. Now, it's not that he never spent anything. He, as a farmer, he would buy land, but he wasn't going to buy frivolously anything ever at all, period. And Mom is still very much that way, that there's a lot, there's cash. I hate to say a lot, it's not like that, it's not like 7 figures sitting in a bank account, but there's excess savings, because that was the way that they were raised. They were raised by people who didn't have any excess, and so when they got some, they held on to it for security. And we do tend to see that. Like, my mom will be 80 in August, and so there's very much a generational deal that I see anyway in how they were raised.
Very much so. I think my dad's a lot that way now. I mean, he's 81, and so investing is not something he's done. He's done bank CDs, and of course, when CDs were paying 8 or 9% interest, 30 years ago, that was great. But now that they don't really give you anything,
Right.
I mean, he's still stuck there, and he's not going to move outside of that because he's not going to take on any risk. And one of the things with him and also my grandmother, his mother, who passed away many years ago, when we cleaned her house out, you had to go through the books because
Oh yeah, there might be money anywhere. Yeah.
they might throw a $10 bill in there, and so you had to actually go through things before you could actually get rid of it.
I think about this when people have estate sales, that type of thing goes through my mind all the time because I don't know about you guys, but I have had more than one, many more than one over the years, clients who have told me about, well, there's money in mason jars in the walls, and there's money in the mattress, and I remember that like the first time somebody told me they had money in the mattress, I kind of laughed because I thought they were just using that phrase jokingly. They were like, no, really, there's money in the mattress, and I mean they had it everywhere, and that's really what this personality is, and we're not going to bash having excess savings. I mean, in times like what we've just been through, it has been a blessing to a lot of people to have that additional savings that you didn't think you would ever really, really need, but you had it to fall back on. That's one thing, but you don't want to go to the extreme of literally hiding money in your house, because what happens when you die, or what happens when the house burns down? Who else knows where that is?
Well, I think it's interesting that this type of personality almost has a heightened reverence for money.
Yeah,
They regard it in very high esteem, and that it's hard to come by, and if you get some of it, you better put it away, and you better not spend it on anything other than what you absolutely have to have, unless it's something that's going to be productive.
Well, and I'll say, we kind of gave people a hard time about all the excess toilet paper buying. I mean, how many times are you going to use the bathroom in a 2-month period? And, if you have supplies for 3 years, we're probably overdoing it a little bit. But I'll also say there is that personality that is a provider, and then it comes out in this way, in the sense of providing for your family and wanting to know that you're always, always, always going to have enough. And this is a way that I see this in my husband. He's not the hoarder personality completely, but he told me recently, he said, there are certain things that we need to have that have been in short supply, and he said, when this eases up, I'm just telling you, I'm going to buy some excess. Now, he's not going to have, like a room filled with toilet paper. It will be within reason, and that's not even the item on the list. But there are things that our family truly needs that are difficult to find.
I'm sorry, I just got this mental image of Stephen peering over stacks of toilet paper in the spare bedroom at the house.
Yeah.
Interesting. I will say this: if we were as good at saving money in an emergency fund as we were at accumulating toilet paper during the pandemic, no one would have any kind of problem as far as being laid off or anything is concerned. Plenty of money. We'll just ride it out. I'll get another job. Everything will be okay.
That's right.
So there are certain, I guess, positive attributes to this that if you kind of take that and lend it over to money and say, okay, I'm going to have in excess of 6 months emergency fund. Nobody's laughing at those folks that had 6 months of expenses in an emergency fund these days. So that's the hoarder personality. Let's jump to number 2 and talk about the anxious investor. Now, this is not a person that is necessarily, Tim, trying to skid away from investing. This is somebody that is anxious about their investments.
They're the ones that hear something and they think, I need to get in on that before it's too late. And so when things are going well, they're willing to take on more and more risk.
Man, isn't that the famous last words? I need to get in on that before it's too late. What is the common thought process in our industry about that? By the time you've heard about it, it's too late.
It's too late.
Yeah. And so these people who call up and say, oh, I heard about this stock and I want to get in on this stock. Well, the bloom is probably off the rose in that situation.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like they're not going to get anything positive out of it, but if you're chasing it, and I'm completely making up numbers here, this is about nothing in particular, but if you're chasing it because your buddy made 40% in a month, then guess what? That 40% has already taken place, and it's not going to probably take place next month. And you might make 5%, but you're probably not going to make 40. So if you're chasing it for those extremes, like we've said, by the time you hear about it, it's too late.
Well, and it also runs afoul of the number one rule of investing.
Yeah.
And the number one rule of investing is you want to buy low and sell high. And you end up, by the time you hear about it, buying high and then getting disappointed about it and selling low because you go, well, I screwed up on that. And we see this periodically with both fad stocks, something that comes into fashion, so to speak, and people jump all over it after the stock has already run up and they've heard about it. Or we also see this in very localized stocks where maybe somebody's familiar with a local company and they think, oh, well, I heard so-and-so who works there say that they did this. First of all, that's probably insider trading. You don't want to do that. But second of all, they think that because they have some knowledge about that operation that they're comfortable with it and that they say, okay, I think I see an opportunity here. Nothing wrong with seeing an opportunity, but you have to analyze it and say, am I right in the timing of the opportunity? And we don't think that that is really necessarily the way to do it. We are much more strategy based than emotion based when it comes to buying on the news, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think you just hit on the key. Tim, we've got to focus on the facts, and really the anxious investor is focusing on the emotion of it, whether it is fear or greed. They're focusing on the emotion of the investment, and the reality is you've got to come back to slow and steady wins the race and get to the basics of what do I need to understand about my money.
Right. I think in some cases people, they thrive off that emotional high. And And if you have a good financial plan in place where you've got a lot of security and other things and we're able to do the slow and steady wins the race, if you've got some excess that you really don't need for the plan and you want to play with it over on the side, we do have some clients that do that. And they can jump in and out and they can make some mistakes.
Because it's their Vegas money.
It's
on
their
the
Vegas
side.
money, exactly.
Yeah.
But what they will remember most often are those one or two times that they actually came out and hit that 40 or 50% in a month.
Right.
And they forget about all the times that they actually bought high and sold low and took a loss.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point that you've got to literally put up a concrete wall between your financial plan and, as we call it, your Vegas money, or the money that you're going to play with. I have no problem with somebody having a play account as long as it's not attached to their retirement income and they think somehow that they're going to get over on retirement by playing in the market.
I had a family who came to me. This has been many, many years ago. The husband, the dad, passed away. Children were adults, and he had handled his money before they came here. He had handled all of the investments, and I remember them telling me, he did such a fabulous job. He invested in this and made money here, and he invested in this and made money here, and they were accurate on those things, but he didn't tell them the whole story. And when I was looking back at documents, documents don't lie. These are the buys and these are the sells. And what I saw was he had also lost over $300,000 in some of his investment decisions. I don't care how much you have, $300,000 is significant. Now, I never told the family that. They didn't need to know. They were going to be okay without it. But the distinction is there could have been a small amount that he, quote unquote, played with. Let's not put $300,000 on the play table.
That's a big play table.
That's a big play, and that was just what he lost. Anyway, separate your Vegas money from your gotta have it for retirement money.
Well, let's face it, not everybody can be the Babe Ruth of investing, and Babe Ruth even struck out more than he hit home runs. And if everybody can't be the Babe Ruth of investing, what does that say about your strikeout, ratio to hits that you might get? It's something that you've got to have a complete understanding on of how you separate that from your real serious money as you get into the planning process. We're talking about the 6 personality types regarding your money. We're back on the Get Ready for the Future show in just a moment. A game warden noticed how a particular fellow named Sam consistently caught more fish than anyone else. The successful fisherman invited the game warden to come along with him and observe. So the next morning, the two fellows met at the dock and took off in Sam's boat. When they got to the middle of the lake, Sam stopped the boat and the warden sat back to see how it was done. Sam's approach was really simple. He took out a stick of dynamite, lit it, and threw it in the air. The explosion rocked the lake with such a force that dead fish immediately began to surface. Sam took out a net and started scooping them up. Well, you can imagine the reaction of the game warden. When he recovered from the shock of it all, he began yelling at Sam. He said, "Hey, buddy, you can't do this. I'll put you in jail. You'll be paying every fine there is in the book." The game warden was just incredulous. Sam, meantime, just simply set down his net, took out another stick of dynamite. He lit it, tossed it this time in the lap of the game warden with these words, "Are you going to sit there all day complaining, or are you going to fish?" For some of us, the same question could be asked about our retirement. This is John Shrewsbury with GenWealth Financial Advisors. Whether it's trying to find the best investment or just worrying about the stock market, a lot of folks seem frozen with retirement indecision, and that very well could lead to an explosion of your own, an explosion of your dreams for a comfortable future. Plan now for your time on the lake or wherever your dreams take you.
A smarter, simpler, more personal approach to retirement continues with the Get Ready for the Future show.
We thank you for joining us on the Get Ready for the Future show. We want to remind you here at GenWealth Financial Advisors, we are very much in tune with where you are in terms of relating to this pandemic and how it may be affecting your retirement. And because of that, we have waived our financial planning fees for a period of time for our clients and potential clients that are 55 years and older. So if one of you, and as a husband and wife, are age 55 or older, we are waiving our financial planning fees and will allow you to come in and work with an advisor and put together a plan at no cost to you as you work your way toward retirement. This is a great value. Normally, a financial plan will run anywhere from $500 to $1,500. You've got a chance to absolutely just avoid that cost in the process and have a wonderful financial plan put together for you. Guys, it really does come in a big 3-ring binder. There's lots and lots of information in it, but it's one of those things that is not overwhelming because we try to make it very simple for people to get their arms around it as we walk them through it, Tim.
Yeah, we really have a summary document in the front of each of those plans, and it gives you a step-by-step process that we'll walk through, and it also allows you to be able to go home, read through that. It also provides that education of why we're making recommendations and so forth. So, yeah, it's very helpful, very to the point, and it's going to accomplish and help you get to what your goals are.
And Janet, we've had a lot of people call our office and take us up on this offer because they really do understand that even though the market has worked its way back up and we're not at the same level as we were pre-pandemic, but we are at the 2019 levels.
Yeah.
And so we are in a situation where people do understand that big swings in the market can really wreck your retirement.
They absolutely can, and I think it's important for people to understand, and we've said this for years, but I think it probably sounds a little bit more real to people right now. There will always be a crisis du jour. That's what it's, a crisis of the day. Just change the label and change the details a little bit on the impact on the market, but that's going to continue. It has been a part of life since the markets existed. It will continue to be a part of life for the rest of your life. It's going to continue that way. So the question is, were you prepared for this storm in the market? And if you were, fabulous. You're probably going to be prepared for the next one. But if you weren't prepared for this storm, how do you get ready for the next one? And part of that is in your planning. It's important to take the time to sit down and prepare for the next crisis du jour.
And you can call us right now, 501-653-7355, if you would like to take advantage of that offer. That's 501-653-7355. If you're listening on radio over the weekend, you will obviously go to our voicemail because we're not working on the weekends, but you will leave your name and number, and Anna Olive, our new client relations specialist, will actually get in touch with you on Monday and give you a call to make plans to visit us here at the GenWealth office, or you can actually do that still virtually on Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever the systems are that we're using these
It's
days.
almost the systems du jour because we can switch and do all kinds of things, but electronically.
Yes, you could do it virtually and be able to still social distance, but get your financial plan taken care of. Again, that number to call is 501-653-7355. We're talking about the 6 financial personality types on the Get Ready for the Future show today. You can go take that quiz at getreadyforthefuture.com/personality. It's absolutely free of charge, and you'll get a little bit of information to go along with the results that you get on that quiz.
So I want to have a little bit of fun with this and get some feedback from what people are getting on the results of your personality quiz here. So for the first 3 people who go and take the personality quiz and then go to GenWealth's Facebook page and just give us feedback. Just let us know on there. Just comment on our page that, hey, I took the quiz and I am a whatever. Let us know what your personality is. We'll give you one of our books, Retirement Should Be More. We'll get that out to you if you'll just go and take the quiz and be one of the first 3 people who comments on our Facebook page to let us know what your quiz results were.
Let's jump back into those personality types, and I'm going to kind of expose, one of the hidden personality types of John. And if you've been around me, you probably know this, but I tend to be that Fitbit. I tested out as a Fitbit, and we'll talk about that in the last segment. But I am also very much a social value spender.
You are.
And I have a little bit of retail therapy about me. I don't like going to retail stores except to buy clothes. And I will go and buy clothes when I don't need them. And my wife will tell me that, you don't need that. And I'll go, yeah, I know, but I'm going to buy it anyway.
Right.
So it's really interesting that fleshed out in this conversation and looking at that. So I will freely admit that I'm a little bit of a retail therapy person. If I'm not feeling really great, I can usually go to a men's clothing store and buy a few things, and I feel really a whole lot better. Now, I'm not sure why I do that, but I do.
I'm not going to do a deep dive into psychology here because I don't have the degrees behind my name to do that.
I appreciate that.
But I do think, not just with you, but with all of us, really, so much of this, you can go back and find the why in how we grew up. It's there. And for you, you've gotten to the point in life where you can do those things where growing up you couldn't.
Yeah,
you couldn't just go buy a new shirt because you wanted to and you were having a bad day or whatever. And so now the ability to be able to do that and not have to worry about whether you're giving up a meal because you went and bought a shirt, it has an impact. And I think really regardless of what your personality type winds up being, you can probably look back at your childhood and see the why there.
And Tim, I think it's important. I don't think that me going and buying a shirt or whatever the case may be, wrecks the budget or anything. And I think that's the distinction here. There's nothing wrong with a little retail therapy as long as it fits in your budget and as long as you can afford it and you're not destroying something else in the process.
Right. As long as it fits in the budget and you're planning for that. Again, it all goes back to planning how you're going to spend your money. And I know that both of these that we're talking about during this segment are, you take that test and that quiz and there's 18 questions and then it tells you exactly kind of what you're favored for, which one you actually are.
Right.
But it also shows the other 5 and kind of where you graded out in those. And both of these are on my negative side. I'm not, I don't know. It says a lot about me, I guess. I'm not the big spender.
I really kind of don't care what other people think about me. It's just not, it's not where I find my value at all. And that's probably very apparent when you look in my closet and go, I think I saw a video of her wearing that shirt 7 years ago. Well, I just don't care.
Still fits.
It still fits. It still fits. Yeah.
Lori and I have that conversation often. It's like, look at this. We probably do need to go out and spend some money on
refresh
some clothes
some
at some
things,
point in time.
Yeah.
I wanted to throw this out because it's in our show notes here, and I wanted to be sure that both of you are aware that if you happen to have some latent tendencies along these lines, I would be more than happy to help you with this, because one of the latent tendencies is for the social value spender is they like to give gifts to loved ones just because.
I do that. I'm in that category completely.
Well, let me just say that I'm volunteering as a
to
recipient.
be a receiver of that.
I am volunteering to be a recipient at any particular point in time that you want to give a gift just because. I'm sure Tim and I would be more than happy to receive that.
Yeah, it's funny because when I first saw, the category, that like the overall broad title of a social value spender, it makes me think more about the person who buys things for themselves because of what other people think about them. That's not me at all. But this deal of, like if you were my nephew and I heard you saying, man, I'd love to have, product X, then if product X is not insanely expensive, it might just show up on your doorstep. It's just kind of how I'm wired. But my dad was very much that way. Absolutely. He wouldn't spend the money on himself, but he'd spend it on somebody else in a heartbeat.
Let me just also confess, this is a confession show, apparently. I spent a good part of my Memorial Day weekend binge watching this show on Netflix called Selling Sunset. Now, if you haven't seen this, it's about this real estate agency on Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood. And all the agents there, except for the principals are two guys, brothers, as a matter of fact, twin brothers, and all the women are just, you can imagine, Hollywood, good-looking women, all kinds of Gucci clothes and this and that and the other. And I was watching this, and nobody's going to believe this, but I was watching this because I love the architecture of those expensive homes. I love to see those expensive homes. I could care less about the drama that was going on. As a matter of fact, that annoyed the stink out of me. But I love watching these or looking at these expensive homes. But when you look at those characters that are on that show, it's all about how they look and what they're wearing and all this type of thing. And there's not much emphasis on that verbally, but you can just see it in their actions and everything. And I think that's what I think about someone who is a social value spender. I think they get their value from the social aspect of what they spend their money on. But I think it's really kind of interesting that it plays out in different ways with different people.
Tim, you want to talk about a little bit about the cash splasher. It's kind of closely related to the social value spender.
That's true. This is someone who, if you go out to eat, they're the ones that are saying, I'm going to pick up the check before you ever sit down at the table. And that kind of gives them that feeling that, people are going to be thanking me and all this other, and they're getting their gratification from that, being able to throw that money down and be able to let loose of it.
Right.
Well, I think it's important for us to think about this in light of the times that we're in right now. I think one of the things that most people have found in this pandemic is the value that you get is not from what you spend, but it is in the relationships that you have.
It's the connections.
And the connections and the time that you get to spend with a lot of people spend lots more time with family than they probably have in years through the last couple of months. And so I think it's important that if you are one who is a cash splasher, so to speak, well, splash some on us and we'll take care of that. But if you are a cash splasher, I think you have to kind of think about, okay, what's really important in life? And I think that's where, this whole thing comes down in terms of this personality thing. Sometimes that can be very revealing to you.
Yeah. Again, it is a question of who are you, at your core, what does this really tell us about who you are? And I think this can be very revealing. It's good to be generous, but are you generous because you're generous, or are you generous because you want somebody's approval?
We've got 2 more to go on the Get Ready for the Future show as we study these 6 personality types as they relate to your money. We're coming back in just a couple of minutes. Stay with us on the Get Ready for the Future show.
The beauty of a potter's work is that each item is unique. No piece is the same. That's what makes it art. At GenWealth, we believe your financial plan should be unique to you. Through our process, your money is carefully shaped around your goals and dreams. Your future, artfully crafted. Call us today or visit our website and connect with us. GenWealth Financial Advisors.
There's always been power in standing up for what you believe in, challenging the status quo, and never accepting the ordinary. What about the rest of your life? Will you settle? Or will your retirement be more? More fun, more family than finances, more than just investments. Connect with us at GenWealth and harness the power of more.
Education-driven, strategy-based, team-delivered. That's how we roll on the Get Ready for the Future show, and we're back for more.
Welcome back to the Get Ready for the Future show. If you're just joining us and wondering who the heck are these folks on my computer or on my radio, GenWealth Financial Advisors is a personal financial planning firm based here in the state of Arkansas. We also have an office in Northwest Louisiana. We work with people who are getting ready for their future. And most of the time, those folks are getting ready for retirement. Now, we also work with people who are accumulating money, preparing for retirement. But the main part of our business is helping people to get ready for creating an income stream for themselves so they can basically replace a paycheck when they walk out of work for the last time. If that fits you, you've got an opportunity right now. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, we have waived our financial planning fees for folks that are 55 and older. You simply have to just go to getreadyforthefuture.com and go to the Contact Us button and contact our office here in Bryant, 501-653-7355. If you'd like to do that by telephone, again, that number is 501-653-7355. Guys, I got to slow down when I say that. I had somebody tell me on the phone the other day, they said, you guys, when you're talking about that phone number, you rattle it off so fast, I broke my pen trying to write it down.
We've been saying it for a very long time.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. So that's 501-653-7355. And Tim, it's a great value for someone to be able to actually come into GenWealth right now and capture a financial plan for themselves at no cost.
Yeah, in the last couple of weeks, we've had a number of people come in and sit down with us in the West Little Rock office. I work with Scott there, and so we've been meeting with some folks. And I think, 55, that's that retirement red zone we've talked about in the past. You're probably 5 to 10 years out from retirement. It's time to actually sit down, make sure you have a plan that's going to have you on track so that you can actually walk away from that job that you're getting that regular paycheck for and start paying yourself from your retirement and your Social Security and so forth, making sure that's all ready and set up.
So if you're 55 and older, you've got the opportunity to do that right now. 501-653-7355. Go to getreadyforthefuture.com if you're online and just go to the Contact Us tab, and we would be glad to take care of you as we extend this offer through June 30th. It is a time-bound offer through June 30th for that free financial plan. Guys, we got to hurry and get in these other two characteristics of your money personality. And Tim, I want to start with the ostrich. Not that you would be an ostrich by any
He's
stretch
not.
of the imagination.
Not the ostrich.
No, you're certainly not.
No.
Tim is one of the folks on our team that is one of the most diligent planners that we have. And so ostrich is not your personality.
No, it's not my personality at all, but I did have someone that I roomed with about 25 years ago that was his personality.
Oh, really?
It didn't seem so bad. I was still young. I was paying him a rent because it was his house. But, I saw the bills stacking up on the dryer. I mean, that's where he'd get the mail.
It was
He'd
the
just
landing
throw things
zone.
there. And
yeah.
It wasn't so bad until I came home one time and the electricity was off.
Then it becomes serious.
It's like, okay, what's going on, my friend?
Yep.
So we had to make sure that he started making sure getting the bills paid on time.
I will say, as an advisor, this is a difficult personality on the rare occasion when we have an ostrich actually come into the office, because they don't come in very often.
I was about to say,
Yeah.
these folks avoid us like the
right.
plague.
But on the rare occasion that they do, just get the image of an advisor trying to physically pull an ostrich head out of the sand. That's about what we have to do to go, you're not thinking about any of the consequences of your actions here, or the consequences, more importantly, of your inactions. So like when you avoid the utility bill, I don't care how much money you have in the bank. If you avoid paying the bill, they're gonna shut your utilities off. Newsflash, this is how this works. If you avoid dealing with your 401k at all, then guess what? If you put nothing in there, at the end of the day and at the end of your career, you got nothing in it. That's how this works. I kind of feel like I went into almost semi-attack mode, but I mean, seriously, get your head out of the sand because you're not going to find your retirement picture there.
You know, there are a few ostriches that have come in that maybe did get lucky because they started, investing in their retirement.
Yeah.
And they
just
kind of
complete ostriches.
They just kind of let it go. They did what they were maybe told that they should do, and fortunately, over time, they've accumulated some assets and were able to come in, and we were able to help them out.
Well, obviously, it's one of the reasons why you want to take a test is to reveal a behavior and then say, okay, do I need to change something?
Right.
And I think that if you are an ostrich, the message is, yep, you need to change something and get about some better money habits. All right, so let's finally talk about the Fitbit Financier. Now that's a interesting title, but what does this mean, Fitbit Financier, Janet?
Okay, so Fitbits are not as popular now as they were for a period of time, but you guys remember even around the GenWealth office, there was a period of time where probably half a dozen team members or so had a Fitbit, and it was like, how many steps are you at? Because I'm ahead of you by 300 steps today. And, it was there was this ongoing competition about the physical activity, and because your Fitbit would tell you, it's like, hey, guess what? Here's where you are. You haven't stood up in a while. You need to stand up. You need to get your heart rate raised. You need to do this. It was telling you all the time. And so the financial version of this is a person who is constantly checking, where am I? What's my status on this financially? What's my status on this? What do I need to do? How do I need to, what's my financial activity need to be in order to move myself forward? And I will say I am a self-professed Fitbit financier. I wish they had an easier name to say than that, but I'm a financial Fitbit person. That's who I am.
Well, and I think that there are some good aspects to that, but also you can take this to the extreme.
You can, yeah.
And here's how you take this to the extreme. And we've seen this of the people that check their 401k balance every day. And sometimes
or by the hour,
multiple times
yes.
a day.
It's not going to change until the end of the day.
It's not. It's not going to change.
I heard that there's a company locally that actually has a kiosk that people can walk up to and get online immediately and check their 401k balance. And I'm like, oh, please take that thing out. Don't do that.
It's not healthy.
It is not healthy. And yeah, I know the Fitbits out there are going, no, I've got to do that. I've got to do that. But Tim, that's just not a healthy behavior when it comes to long-term investing.
It can add a little bit of stress, especially during that time of, late February and March when the markets were going down and they're looking at that. Actually, I even had some of those Fitbit folks that said, I just decided I wasn't going to look. And so
that's a good thing.
It was probably a good thing. And so, we've got the account view that we can have our clients set up to look at, and we can see kind of how often they're signing in. And, we've got a lot of those that rarely or never sign in because they just say, you're going to manage it for me.
You guys handle this. I'll see you at the review.
I'm getting my check. But we do have a lot of accumulators that I can see check it daily.
Yeah.
Or weekly.
And let me clarify, I'm not that person with my retirement money, but I'm probably going to pull up my checking account about every day. But it's not because it's not the same reason. It's because fraud happens and stupid happens. And, back in the day, when my husband and I got married, there were no debit cards. And so if anything was purchased, a check was written, and you had a physical document that you could go, all right, where are we? And so I generally know where the checking account should be at any point in time. But if something crazy pops up, I'll go, hey, honey, did you buy something for $37.23 at such and such? And it's not that I care that the purchase was made. It's just I'm validating if it's real because, frankly, we've just seen too much crap. But there's a difference in that and messing with your long-term money too much.
Yeah, and I think that's where the danger comes in, is messing with your long-term money, because it will cause you to do the wrong thing at the wrong time for the wrong reason. The folks that were watching their 401k go down and then they, got to the point of breaking and going, okay, I'm just going to move it. they probably, closed the barn door after the horse had already gotten out.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that is where you hurt yourself in long-term finances. And really it is and this is going to be pot and kettle here, Janet, for just a second. It is literally a control issue.
Yeah, it is.
It is a control issue. You want to be in control of everything. And sometimes what your portfolio needs, now not your checking account or anything, but most of the time what your portfolio needs is a good leaving alone.
That's right.
And I think that's a good place to leave this subject alone. Of course, you've heard our final bell. We want to remind you about the opportunity to actually check in at GenWealth Financial Advisors and get your financial plan underway. If you're 55 or older, you've got an opportunity right now to get a free financial plan. We have waived our financial planning fee for from now until June 30th. So you have to come in and actually get your appointment on the schedule before June 30th. Actually, if you schedule the appointment before June 30th, we'll do the appointments over in July. And if
contact us by June 30th.
But contact us by June 30th. We will waive our financial planning fee if you are 55 or older. Guys, some last thoughts on this 6 personalities that really do drive how you handle money.
I would say just have some fun with the quiz. Go check it out. GetReadyForTheFuture.com/personality. Take the quiz, see who you are, check out the information after that to see what you might need to do to grow yourself financially based on the personality that you have. And remember the little giveaway opportunity that we have for you to be able to get a book if you are among the first 3 people who take the quiz and then go to us on Facebook and let us know what your results were. Then we will we'll get you that book out, and the name of it again is Your Retirement Should Be More.
Tim?
Well, I think, there's a lot of good things that come out of this quiz. I think that the 6 different personality types, there's some things in it. Each one of those that blended together can make us a much better handler of our own money.
I would agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say this as we close. Wherever you are right now, if you're not comfortable with it, it doesn't mean that you're always going to be that way. There's always an opportunity for change, and having a financial coach to help you through that change is probably the best way to do it. Reach out to us at 501-653-7355. That's going to do it for this weekend's edition of the Get Ready for the Future show. We'll see you next week.
The GenWealth Financial Team is available to you 24/7 at info@getreadyforthefuture.com or call our offices at 501-653-7355. You should personally consult a financial advisor before making any investment, and no strategy can assure success. GenWealth Financial Advisors is an Arkansas-registered investment advisor with securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC.